Very good evening and welcome. You're watching the India Development Debate. I'm Tamanna Inamdar. The gig economy has revolutionized the way a lot of Indians find employment, but it's not without its hitches. Every now and then there is a new skirmish between gig workers and the company that is employing them, because their entire relationship is still in a regulatory grey zone. Are they employees? Are they part of the unorganized sector? Are they partners? And what do those rights mean? The latest example is, of course, from Blinkit, where almost 3,000 food delivery workers from the Zomato-owned company have been on strike for more than 10 days now. The delivery agents are protesting after the company changed the basis on which they will get paid and how much they will get paid. In the latest reported by the Economic Times today, at least 1,000 of them have now gone on to competing companies and delivery platforms and have joined employment there. Meanwhile, Blinkit is also hiring new delivery partners at quite a rapid rate. So now this is the story of one company and one set of gig workers who've had a head-on sort of a clash. But according to the Niti Aayog, there are over 7.7 million gig workers in India, and the workforce is expected to expand to 23.5 million by 2029-30. But do they have the adequate rights and protection under Indian labor laws? Are the companies clear about how they can manage their relationship with these gig workers, especially at a time when a lot of these companies are under pressure and have been seeing greater demands for profitability? Where does that profit come from? Will it come from the pocket of the gig worker, the end consumer, and who eventually pays the price? We're speaking on all of these issues today. I'm going to start off with K Ganesh, serial entrepreneur. He's, of course, promoter of Big Basket, Portia, Bluestone, and many others. Aditya Narayan Mishra, director and CEO of Ciel HR Services, is with me today, as is Kiran Anand, treasurer of the Maharashtra app-based Transport Workers Union. Welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for joining us today. We're hoping to get different perspectives on this issue. So, K Ganesh, let me start off with your take on the latest round of clashes, in a sense that we've seen protests coming in from these gig workers of Blinkit. Now, some of them are looking for other jobs. Blinkit will find other people to work for them. But the fact that Blinkit has reportedly slashed their basic payment for each delivery from rupees 50 last year to rupees 25 and now rupees 15 arbitrarily also tells you that this is quite a lopsided relationship, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, my heart goes out to the Blinkit executives. For anybody, whether it's a gig worker, whether it's an employee, whatever may be the relationship, any sudden and drastic change is very tough to manage, especially when you're talking about entry-level people. It is not about going in for using the money for a better car or a better home or eating in a better restaurant. This is basic sustenance level, so it really hits hard. My heart goes out to them, definitely. So it is a challenge for anybody to see a sudden drastic drop in income level, because the expenses don't drop. You can't go back to your landlord and say that I am going to reduce the rent, or you can't tell your Kirana store guy to take less money because you lost a job. Having said that, the other part of it is that it is not an employment. Therefore, there is a vendor-customer relationship here, and therefore there is an at will. Like you do with vendors, you negotiate. You do have a right as a company to negotiate, obviously with certain advance notice, with certain this one, and all of that stuff. But it does create a problem. It is exactly the same thing happens in B2B businesses. I've been in B2B business where my clients, on the last day of the contract ending, says you reduce the price by 25%. I don't have that margin. I have to walk away. I have 25 people working on that account. They suddenly don't have a job. So this is a problem with the
power to walk away. One minute. K Ganesh, you're saying some very interesting things. You're saying that this is a vendor kind of a relationship. But is that the dynamic? Is that the dynamic? Because these workers don't have too much of a choice. Some might get absorbed in, competing sort of companies like any employee does. The thing is that they're not identified as employee, but their relationship is like employee-employer.
Yeah, that is the gig economy fundamental. You are right. I mean, I don't disagree with that. It is a problem. You get in the gig economy, you get the flexibility of working for shorter duration, for multiple companies, choosing when to work. There are a lot of flexibility for the worker in the gig economy. It comes with the downside that whether it's health benefit, whether it's insurance benefit, whether within quote a sort of guaranteed paycheck at the end of the month, or sick leave, or gratuity, all of those goes away there for the flexibility. Obviously, at the lowest level, it hits really bad. A gig economy for a, say, fashion designer, or for a, even to some extent for a celebrated media journalist, gig economy can work. It's not sustenance. Here, every day, if the person doesn't get that gig economy work, their lives, their basic needs will get affected. So it's a challenge there. So what you're saying is true, but that's the nature of the gig economy.
That's the nature, Kiran Anand. The fact is that the gig economy has also provided jobs to many who didn't have those opportunities right now. It's created a whole set of employment to those who didn't have those options. Plus, it's an opt-in, opt-out. The day you don't want to do this, you just, switch off. You don't have to go on the app. So, you have to go with the uncertainties that accompany this kind of employment as well.
It is true, but as K Ganesh has said that it's a very the story. I would like to share like there are people in the way after lockdown, after Corona lockdown, there were many people who lost their job, and they have tried this gig in economy like Zomato, Swiggy, even Ola, Uber. But unfortunately, they could not cope up with the earnings which they thought they would in doing this. Before, you have seen in Zomato also and Swiggy also, they were giving nice incentives and nice rates. Now after this thing, they are giving, as you have told, that they have slashed their rate from 25 to 50 now, and the fuel rate is going high. So I feel companies should little bit think about this, and we should help the gig workers so that they would not go anywhere and will continue doing this job.
Okay, so, Aditya Mishra, the question now becomes whether we will see some kind of a change. We know government policy is focused on giving more surety to gig workers. We know that's under the works. There is a case in the Supreme Court right now to recognize them as unorganized workers. There are reports that the state of Rajasthan is looking for new laws for gig workers. Do you think that things will change once they're no longer in a legal gray zone as far as their identity is concerned?
I think the number of gig workers in our economy has been on the rise, and possibly very soon we will see some regulation which are coming in. This could mutually help both sides in getting more clarity. And secondly, about the rights of the employer or the company which uses these gig workers. Having said that, I think in the long term, for every organization to really build a sustainable business, it needs to retain its people, irrespective of what kind of employment patterns that they use. The perception in the talent market about an employer needs to be positive. People come to work in an organization when the organization follows high levels of ethics, is attractive as an employer, and is paying fairly. So I think these are some of these long-term issues which are linked here. We all know that in the startup ecosystem, organizations are today under various kinds of pressures. So this could be a little bit of a short-term measure that the company has taken to sort of drop the prices unanimously. As a result, a lot of gig workers are unhappy about it. And possibly there is someone else in the market who's willing to compensate them at a higher rate. So gig workers naturally will go out. So in this process, one organization loses out in terms of its employer brand. I see this about 4 issues connected with this.
Okay. The question is, Aditya, do companies need to hold on to these employees if they are in the nature of gig work? Because while in this particular case, in the case of Blinkit, while some have found other jobs, even the company has found other delivery partners. They in fact froze out those that weren't on board. This is a country with a large number of people. You might always find someone to do the job. But are trained delivery partners to your specific kind of service that easily replaceable? Aditya.
Theoretically, it's one can say that this is a very simple job and one can replace this. However, being in the recruitment industry, we know that every job has its own nuances. Nothing like a tenured employee. Of course, the the utility value of an employee versus the costs that one incurs comes down over a period of time, but you cannot really run an organization with people just coming and going, even if they're gig workers. In the short run, Blinkit might have found replacement. However, it will take its own time to sort of align the resources, teach them about how delivery is done in Blinkit, and some do's and don'ts. It consumes energy of the organization and it's a cost which is hidden. So I think in the longer term, this could be, of course, a crisis, and that's how they have dealt with this crisis. But in the longer term, every organization has to figure out a way of really building partnership, building some kind of a relationship with its employees, even if they are gig workers. That's what I feel.
Come to you on this point, because this is a fight, I would say, which has been going on almost as long as the advent of these companies in India. From the get-go, those concerns started first with, Ola, Uber partners. You've seen that with Zomato, Swiggy, now with Blinkit and others. So this is urban company. Every model of this kind of a space has seen a clash with their partners. What do you think is the solution here?
The solution is the aggregator license, which is a regulation government should put on the company. There should be minimum pays. The minimum there should be a fixed income to be given to the wages to the gig workers, so that they, this is the first thing. Second thing, there should be security of their jobs, that they should be treated as workers, as a part. Now they are just as you can, anybody can block them, or you can remove them from the platform anytime, and just giving them reasons, whatever reason is there. They should be treated as workers. They should come under. There should be a board for those workers. We are trying, as Maharashtra App-based Transport Workers Union, we have already filed a PIL at the Mumbai High Court, and IFAT, Indian Federation of App-based, we have filed in Supreme Court, Delhi. As we all know now, we are trying to make a board in Maharashtra, and also in the basis of in Central, we are trying to do it. So I feel that they should have a secure wages. They should have a secure, security over their jobs. And third, they should have their health issues, which they could have a mediclaim or something. Company should provide, and from in which platform they are working. Thank you.
Is that feasible for the kind of model these companies have, K Ganesh? If and just to add some context on it, a number of countries have gone through this process of legislation and have ended up saying that you have to give them the same, at least some of the same benefits as employees. Do you think that works for the business model of these companies?
Yeah, so I think it's a very valid question, and there are two answers to the question. One is just the business model. This 10-minute delivery business model, as it is, forget this debate under question, that just does not work, because the average order value and margin on the average order value of 10-minute deliveries is not enough to cover the delivery costs. So the model is unsustainable, does not work. And therefore, now they are trying to reduce the delivery charges further and further to unsustainable level, almost usurious, coercive level, where the delivery person is actually not able to make both ends meet. So one is a business model itself is a problem. Two, the moment you say, I want security of wages, I want this and all that stuff, then you're no longer talk about gig economy. I would say like we should have somewhere in between. Given the size and scale of gig economy workers, we need to have a body. We need to, like was mentioned, that takes care objectively of the interests of the gig workers because they are not employees. They don't come under the Employment Benefits Act and other act. Therefore, having a board, having an oversight, having a regulatory body to look so that they are not completely exploited is good idea, important. But to say that give them all the benefits, give them security, give them this, give them minimum wage, then these jobs will not exist. It will hurt the gig workers. Then we are going back to the old regime, pre-gig economy regime, where the jobs, the nature of the jobs is such that the company cannot afford to make them permanent employees and pay them all the benefits of permanent employees. But that's not, you don't have to go to that extreme. Basic health insurance, along with government group insurance scheme, with insurance companies, there are innovative, creative ways for small premium to protect their basic needs like health insurance, like life insurance. So that can be done. So the answer is somewhere in between, but don't go to the extreme of saying, make them employees and treat them like employees, give them all of it, then they will not get that employment. So what will happen really then is if you legislate it to that level and go to Supreme Court and all that stuff, then you will end up saying the gig economy does not work in India. Who will get affected? The gig worker. Now at least he's getting something. He will be idle, jobless,
going to come down to the
So,
point, is it also going to come down to the point that the end customer will have to simply just pay more to make this workable and feasible for everyone?
yes,
Have we come to
actually
that
true,
stage?
but Tamanna, it does not happen in India. Here we negotiate for anything and everything for every 1 rupee. We have seen that in multiple of e-commerce businesses, including our own companies. The moment you charging 10 rupees for delivery, the person will stop. But he will not mind spending 1 hour of his time, spend 20 rupees in parking, 20 rupees in fuel. He will do everything to save just the 10 rupee delivery charge. That unfortunately the mindset, including your and mine mindset. I'm not out of this. So we all will spend our time, energy, and money indirectly, but directly 10 rupees delivery charge, we don't do. So that does not work. Have over the years, right from Flipkarts of the world to Big Baskets of the world, Blue Stones of the world, we have all seen the moment you ask this person to pay delivery charge, the people will drop off. So that unfortunately is a bad habit. That will not happen. What needs to do is either the business model have to improve. Don't say 10 minutes I can deliver. And then you have people zooming across for delivering one nimbu or one gulab jamun. That's why they advertise. How much money will you make in delivering a gulab jamun? You cannot pay the delivery boy anything. Where will the money come from? Customer,
eventually, I'm glad we spoke about that, because eventually the customer sitting in their home, getting that one gulab jamun at a click of the button, will have to pay for it. Someone has to pay. It's not going to be workable otherwise. Aditya Mishra, just closing comments before I wrap this discussion. One way or the other, squeezing out the gig worker to protect margins, is that sustainable? I'm not saying is it right, is it wrong, business model, etc. Is it sustainable for any business that wants to actually compete even on the basis of quality of service?
Absolutely not. You cannot keep on squeezing the delivery worker, the gig worker, just for profitability. But having said that, let me also mention that this gig economy is something which is very new in India, and I think the players are trying to figure it out.
Correct.
Some of these very established organizations, I think Ganesh talked about the model of vendor and customer relationship. Actually, gig worker and the employer relationship is something similar. So very established organizations have got very evolved practices of engaging with a supplier, engaging with a vendor, and developing the vendor. In my opinion, organizations, these e-commerce players and many others who are using gig workers, they have to understand this whole concept of partnering with gig workers and really be concerned about their welfare, because no business can be a sustainable long-term business without all its stakeholders seeing value for themselves. So it is not only the owners of the company who have to see profit, it is also the customer who has to see value, the employee who has to find the employer attractive, and business ethics and all of that. And similarly, the suppliers and the business partners, government and society, all the stakeholders of a business need to see value for themselves. So it is for social good that gig economy exists, and it must be promoted. The way it needs to be promoted, there has have to be certain framework which the government can define, and all of us must contribute. I think it's a great thing that you all are doing, is to take up this topic and talk about various dimensions of this topic.
Right.
And yeah.
Absolutely. We need to understand what the cost of services are, and the last person in the link, which is the gig worker, is not the one who can always pay the price. Having said that, we'll track the story and also look at what government policy will be there. It's long overdue, and eventually there will be some clarity in terms of policy on what rights these gig workers have as well. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us on the big story this evening on India Development Debate. But I also want to share some interesting